Now, I do want to talk here for a moment because I think a lot of people watching this video would be very tempted to play the move rook to b8 because your rook's under attack. You don't want to lose a rook. Probably should save it, right? Hey guys, today I'm going to be playing 3 games of chess where you can get an insight into my thought process. The way this is going to work, I'm going to play 3 5-minute games on chess.com. After I play those games, I'm going to go back and analyze them and talk about why I played the moves I played, what I was thinking, where I went wrong and where I didn't go wrong, all that kind of stuff. If you would like to jump right ahead to the analysis of those games, feel free to do that. Although I think it's going to make more sense if you follow along live as I play the 3 games, but it's totally up to you. Having said that, let's get started. And just as a reminder, while I'm playing the game initially, I'm not going to be commentating. I'm going to be focusing on playing the game. I will do the commentary at the end. All right, here we go. I'm going to focus. That was a mouse slip. I didn't mean to move there at all. Oops. That's not good. Okay, not a great game, even though we won. Not really happy about that, but let's go for a new game, and we'll talk about that one at the end. Well, it's game one. We're going to do 2 more. We get black again. All right. All right, that was game number 2. Like I said, we'll analyze them at the end. I'm going to do one more game, and then we'll jump into the analysis where I'll talk about my thoughts. Okay, so not the greatest game there to finish out, but we're still going to analyze all three, and I will talk about what I think went wrong in that one. A couple things come to mind right away. So I'm going to analyze the three games in the order that they were played, talk about my thought process, and hopefully you guys can learn from this. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first game, I played e5. It's a pretty solid way to start against e4. I didn't really think too much there. And then again, knight c6. This is basically the most solid way to play against knight f3. Okay, he's attacking the pawn. I'm defending the pawn. I'm developing a piece, controlling the center. d4 is called the Scotch game. Now, the Scotch game is one of those openings that's not played a ton. Bishop b5 is really popular. Bishop c4 is really popular. And then you probably have the Scotch game. I don't have a ton of experience against it. I haven't really faced it a lot in my chess career. And it's one of those openings that I never really learned a bunch of theory on. So that definitely played a role in my next couple of moves, because I've gotten into trouble against the Scotch, particularly when I try to follow the main line, because I don't really know the main line. And if I'm playing somebody who knows what they're supposed to do, I can very easily get into a bad position. So I know that capturing is good. And then the only theory that I really know is after bishop c5, one of the lines is that they can take you. And then you can go queen to f6, kind of going for checkmate, and you take back the knight on the next move. And I think it's a decent position for black. That's really all the theory I know against the Scotch game. So in the game, when they played bishop e3, I'm pretty sure that there's a queen f6 line, which is one of the main lines. And then they play like c3 to defend it, and you put your knight here. In my experience in the past, though, I just haven't gotten into great positions because I'm not familiar with those types of positions. And so here's a little tip for you guys. If you're ever playing an opening and you're not really sure the main line, or you think your opponent maybe has studied something, one thing that I like to do is just play something that's not terrible, but is probably not the main line. And I figured trading and then playing queen f6 is probably not the main line, but at the same time, it didn't look too bad, right? Because I'm creating the opportunity for a queen trade. If they take, I could take back and develop my knight, and I felt like we might get into some interesting positions. So that's what I did. And my opponent did play the best move there, e5. I swung it over to c6, which apparently was not good. And I did feel like what happened here was after white castled queenside, this was a very dangerous threat. And I didn't realize how dangerous this was going to be, because what I wanted to do here was just castle and then try to play d6 or d5 pretty quickly. But what happens if I castle now, and the reason I played a6, which Engine doesn't like, but I'll go ahead and show you, I was just thinking that after this, I'm kind of in trouble, and I'm going to lose a pawn. Like, let's say I go here, white can simply take me, and then take a free pawn. And it looks like I'm just going into an endgame down a pawn, which is not good. Of course, I can take here, and Engine is saying I should have, but this is extremely dangerous to play chess like this, like opening up your king to just an onslaught. Like, I didn't want to go down that road either. So I decided, you know what? Normally, you have to be really careful playing moves like this when you need to finish developing, but I felt like this was a serious threat. And so I thought, okay, a6, instead of castling, a6 was, at least it could be useful to maybe play b5 like I did an attack on the queen side. But yeah, I'm already, this game really shows like how if you fall into an opening that you're not familiar with, you can get into a disadvantage out of the opening. That's exactly what happened here. And that happens from time to time. Ideally, what I would do if I was still studying chess and still trying to improve, I would go and learn some theory against the Scotch game so that I don't, so that I'm not unprepared again. But that's, it is what it is for this time. So now I castled, and then g4. So of course it's pretty obvious white wants to attack my king, and there's a couple ways I was trying to think about this. I need to get this bishop out. Like, this was the big problem in my position, right? There's two ways. You got to either play b5 or b6 to get it out over here, or try to play d6 or d5. The problem with either of these moves is white has a very nice clamp, right? I'm just going to be losing a pawn. Even if I play d5, there's en passant, and I'm just losing this pawn, right? And this is just like an endgame down a pawn. And yes, I could take this one, but white's pieces are still very active, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. And even here, if white just stops and defends this, is probably even better. And this is a very easy target for white, right? It's an isolated pawn. He already has a rook attacking it. There's no way I'm going to be able to hold on to that pawn, right? Like, if I go rook d8, probably just this rook can come over, or the knight can go to d5. I mean, there's lots of good moves for white. So I said, you know what? let's just go with b5. I'll try to put the bishop on this diagonal. It looked like maybe there could be some tactics where I could move my queen and, you know, do something with the bishop. So that's why I played b5. Bishop b7, and just to give you an example, if white takes the pawn now, this actually works out for me because I can take the rook. And even though I lose the knight, I'm still up the exchange, and I saw that that was going to be good. So I figured, okay, this is a way to get my bishop developed. And now both rooks have access to go to d8 to support the pawn. So f4 and then a5. I also thought about not doing this and just bringing a rook over to defend, but I don't know. It just felt like, you know, one of the things when your opponent is attacking you on the flank, if you can, you want to counter strike in the center. In this position, there's not really a reason to counter strike in the center, and it's not easy for me to do. The king is not in the center. It's already been castled over here, and I'm really behind. Like, white has the majority of the center control here, so by the time I play moves like this and try to play here, white's going to have like some pawns getting ready to attack my king. And so I felt like I needed to do something a little bit faster. Engine doesn't really agree with me, but I'm just telling you what was going through, you know, my mind. I'm like, hey, I need to make some counterplay, something over here to you know, to give white something to worry about. f5. I'm not sure why it's listed as a blunder. I must have missed something because I didn't think that was so terrible. I did. No, okay, I didn't. I needed to play. Oh, right. I saw queen h6 later in the game. Yeah, if I would have noticed it here, it is. I can just pick up the rook. Yeah, nice little move there. Check, king has to go, and then I can just take it. Yeah, that would have been good. Unfortunately for me, I was a little bit too focused on this, and I was thinking in my mind, I'll tell you guys exactly what I was thinking. In my mind, I was thinking the bishop was trapped after this. I totally forgot, actually, that white could just play bishop d5 and force a trade. What I was thinking white was going to do was play f6, trying to capture here, and after takes, they're going to take here. And then I figured, you know, if I take here, I'm losing my rook with check. Didn't look very good for me. And I just wasn't sure like how to evaluate this position, but that's what I was thinking about, and that's part of the reason why I just missed the obvious little tactic here. So anyway, we'd get this, I traded, and now I did see that I can play queen h6. It's not as good, obviously, because I'm not winning the rook anymore, but I still felt like, okay, it's a good way to kind of get my bishop more active. And so queen h6. And then here, I'm getting a little low on time. And also, I didn't really know what to do. I mean, this is a pretty solid position for white. They've got the knight smack dab in the middle. Yes, I could take it, but if I do that, then I have to worry about this guy. And the queen is attacking this as well. It looks like I'm going to lose another pawn. So I didn't really like that. I didn't know what else to do readily. Engine is saying, let's see. Oh, no, it actually says a3 is the best move. So yeah, you know, trying to create some weaknesses around white's king, right? Because if they take me, well, they've opened up the king now for my rook to come in, and I can potentially get some counterplay along the a file. And if they don't take me, which I think was what, you know, the better moves. Oh, engine says no. Wow. But now I at least have this square on b2, right? The queen has to keep an eye, because if my queen somehow ever ends up there, it's just checkmate. So it gives white something to worry about, right? So now I decided to take, again, getting a little bit lower on time. I kind of wanted to simplify the position a little bit, and the knight was just, you know, there's a lot happening with the knight that I had to watch out for, lots of forks and different ideas. And so I figured, you know what, let's just get rid of it. My bishop wasn't doing a whole lot anyway. So it seemed like a good trade. Queen to c6, again, getting low on time kind of impacted this move. I just wanted to simplify and go into a rook ending and see if my experience, you know, could potentially, I could make a comeback, basically. And so that's what happens. This is not a good endgame for me, by the way, because white's rook has the option to infiltrate right away. And also these pawns are just very nice and pretty. I've got some doubled pawns, but it's not terrible for me. And so then it's kind of a question of how can I get my rooks active, right? You know, I think a lot of people in this position might play a move like rook c8, just defending the pawn. But I figured if I'm just going to be defending like this, once white gets the other rook over here or even here and starts pushing these pawns, I'm going to be on the defensive the rest of the game. Don't have good winning chances if I do that. A lot of times in rook endings, the only chance you have is trying to create counterplay. That means get your rooks active somehow, any way that you can. And so that's why I played this move. I'm like, go ahead and take me. I'll take you. You know, this is what I was thinking. He takes me, I take him, he takes me. And now this rook can get active, right? Maybe I go on the second rank, start creating threats here. Maybe I attack this pawn, but at least it gives me the option to get a rook active, right? That's what I was kind of thinking through. So here we go. decided to defend this. And that, like I said, was a total mouse slip, which is a really bad move. What I was thinking about playing rook here. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, and it ended up slipping the mouse here. My idea behind going here is that, of course, if he takes me, well, now my rook's on an open file, and I can come down here and start creating threats, right? My king is in a good position to stop this passed pawn, so that's nice, and my rook can get involved. The other thing that white might do here, if I would have played this, would be to take my pawn. But again, my plan was to kind of come down and start getting involved. There's actually a nice tactic here, which Stockfish is showing me. I could actually just take the pawn because there's checkmate. So that's kind of cool. I didn't actually see that in the game. But you see how just by activating the rooks and not worrying so much about defending, I'm giving myself better chances to win the game, right? So that was kind of the idea. All right, and then, sorry, let's go back to the game. So I mouse slipped rook b8. Tried to make the best of it at this point, just to defend my pawn there. h5, you know, a lot of times sacrificing a pawn is actually worth it because you mess up the pawn structure, and then you can maybe come over here and you have some easy targets in the future. That was what I was thinking. Also, I don't have to worry about back rank checkmates. Give my king some breathing room. And of course, low on time, I had to kind of just move quickly. So we'll go kind of quickly. Again, activating the rooks, trying to give myself chances to come into the white's position. That's all I'm doing here. And okay, now I have to be very careful here. If this pawn gets too far, I just lose immediately. So I had to play king f8 to have the option to blockade the pawn. And here we go. All right, I don't know. Let's see. I think we ended up just winning this game on time, didn't we? Yeah, I mean, white's totally winning. I'm just doing the best I can to create counterplay with no time on the clock. And I had to come and stop the pawn. And yeah, I mean, white's winning. It's just a matter of time, but they couldn't checkmate me in time. So not a great game. Honestly, I feel like the big... yeah, this is how it could have happened, but I won on time prior to that. Big takeaway from this game: opening preparation. I just got into a bad position right out of the opening. So what I need to do is spend some time on the scotch, learn some of the main lines, and find something that I'm comfortable with. That's the takeaway for me from this game. All right, let's go to the second game. All right, here we go. So King's Gambit. I think one of the best ways to respond to the King's Gambit is the Falkbeer counter gambit with d5. It's very, very solid. It just gets both bishops out right away. And a lot of times white ends up having trouble because of the weaknesses created here. So if you're ever playing against King's Gambit, I highly recommend playing this. Now, my opponent did not play very well here. Bishop to d. Yeah, this is not a good move for white, primarily because you want to be able to play d4. You want to be able to get that bishop out at some point. And white is basically saying, nope, I don't care. I can't do that anymore. I'm actually curious. The engine says my move bishop c5 wasn't the best way. Yeah, knight takes e4. I actually was thinking about playing this. Takes, and then is it f5? Yes, f5. Bishop has to go back, and then e4. Yeah, this is what I was thinking of this line, only because it gives me a nice annoying pawn here, which white can't really deal with, and now I can just develop. But I thought, okay, at least, you know, then white can play d3 and get this bishop out, and the knight can go here, and they can maybe still get into an okay game. I wasn't sure. But yeah, it turns out that was actually the best way to go. All right, but bishop c5, I'm just trying to develop and castle as quickly as possible. When you're playing in these gambit type of openings, speed is everything. How fast you get your pieces out and how fast you get your king to safety, 9 times out of 10 is the most important thing. So that's what I was trying to do. Okay. All right, so here we go. And I took that, e5. Why did I take this? Well, it's obviously attacked twice. And a lot of the times when you take this, the bishop comes out and just kind of gets annoying. Since white can't do that, I felt like, hey, this seems like a good, you know, opportunity to take that. That's why I took it. He pushes, and there's 2 options here I was thinking about: knight to g4 and knight to h5. And knight to h5 is kind of like, let me solidify that annoying pawn on f4. Even though knights on the rim usually are not good, this is one situation against the King's Gambit where it's actually not terrible, I think, because that pawn on f4 is so annoying. Defending it actually a lot of the times turns out to be okay for black. So that was a close second. I decided to just go on the offensive, threatening the fork here. Of course, castling a lot of times is the normal way to deal with this, to defend your pawn, but since there's no pawn there, white cannot castle. And so I'm like, okay, let's see what, white's going to do. We also put some pressure on that e-pawn. Okay, he goes here, and I'm just seeing the engine saying, yeah, castling was pretty good. I don't know why it's saying it's not. It's a pretty good move. All right, h3. Sorry, again, going back, why did I castle? Because castling, getting the king to safety is huge in these types of openings, right? h3, and engine is saying knight to f2 and then trading. Yeah, I did think about that because there's a fork here. The rook has to move somewhere, and then I can take this guy. I just felt like after queen takes, I don't know, yes, it seemed better, but I felt like this move that I played was just going to open up the king. Yes, I'm going to lose a piece temporarily. I might not even be able to get it back right away, but I felt like opening up that file, since I was castled and white was not, and white wasn't going to be castling anytime soon, right? You can't castle this way. You can't castle this way. It just seemed like practically great opportunity. So I don't have any problems with that move. Now, why did I play queen h4 check? Initially, I was going to play rook to e8, and then I was like, wait a second, what if white captures here with check, and then the queen comes down with check, and then the queen comes over with check, and I'm like, worst case for white, he has perpetual, or I might actually be getting checkmated or something. It didn't look good, right? So I thought, okay, let's play the queen check first, and then we'll go rook e8, because now the bishop can't take her. I'll just take it with, the queen or even the king. I stopped the queen h5 move. So that's why I played that move first. Then rook e8, pinning that knight, getting ready to attack it, which is exactly what I did. This move doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, yes, white's taking a pawn and threatening here, but he's got bigger problems with this knight here, and so I don't think that was a great choice from white. So I just keep attacking, and white has a big problem there with the knight. Oh, actually, one line I was considering was knight to f3, because even though I can take the queen, white would take my queen. And this actually looks pretty good for white, because now I have to retreat my rook somewhere. And remember, I sacrificed a piece. Now white's just up a piece. Queens have been traded, which is not what you want to do when you sacrifice pieces. So if my opponent would have played knight to f3, I was actually going to play queen to d8, because I need to keep the queens on the board, and my rook was under attack. This is the only way to save that. So I would have to go back here, create the attack, but now I can at least keep attacking the king. So that was one move that I was kind of concerned with, but my opponent did not see that. And after this, I'm feeling pretty good now, because this is a big problem. All right. Yeah, big blunder. The best move for white was still knight to f3 with the same idea. And again, I was going to play queen to d8, just defending the rook. And there's a lot of threats here that white has to figure out how to deal with. Oh, engine is saying sacrificing the queen and then coming in with the knight was the best way for white to hang on to the game. All right. Anyway, makes the blunder. The rook comes in, and now it's all over. It's just a matter of figuring out how to finish off the king. Now, I do want to talk here for a moment, because I think a lot of people watching this video would be very tempted to play the move rook to b8, because your rook's under attack. You don't want to lose a rook. Probably should save it, right? However, I am on the offensive. My king is safe. My opponent's king is not safe. I have a queen, I have a rook, I have a bishop, I have a knight. My opponent really only has two pieces that are defending the king. I don't care about this rook. Even though I didn't have an immediate checkmate, even though I didn't have an immediate way to win the queen, I don't really care about the rook. I'm going to go and be aggressive, right? And so my intuition was telling me knight d4 has to be the best move. Now, I did see a tactical idea of queen h5, which did come up later. We'll see that in just a second. But this is a skill that you need to learn. Like, it's okay in these aggressive type of openings. If your opponent's king looks like this, it's okay to leave a rook sit over there. And that's exactly what I did. Knight to d4. Oh, we got it. Brilliant. Cool. So he plays c3. He's trying to survive. Just to show you, if he would have taken this, I was thinking of queen h5 check. And the only way white stops that is with this or with g4. g4 does nothing because of en passant, right? And they're still the same threat. And so bishop to e2. But I can just take it, multiple ways. I'm in good shape. So that's why, knight d4 was so good. All right, c3, same idea, right? Check. And here, initially I was going to take with the knight, but then what you have to realize is the king is going to try to escape. And now it gets tricky, because if the king is able to like run away and hide over here, maybe he gets away and maybe the game keeps going on, right? When I take with the rook, this escape square is no longer around, right? You can't go there. And I still have a massive threat. And of course, the queen can't take me either way. It's just checkmate. And so that's why I took with the rook. He does take. I saw that I could win the queen. Didn't see anything better than that. Let's see. Is that the best move? Engine says rook to e3 check was better. I'm not exactly sure what. Oh, I guess because you have bishop f5, that's a nice move. But rook f2 was a close second, and then we took the queen. And just a matter of finishing off, you know, bringing in the queen where I could. I felt like I missed a checkmate here. Let's see, what was it? Yeah, I totally felt like I missed a checkmate. Bishop to b4, because then it's just mate next move. That was the move I missed. And then even here, same idea. I missed it again. What was it here? Ooh, if you guys would like to pause, see if you can find the mate in 2. That's a nice one. And I felt like there was mate, I just couldn't see it. Well, if you had a chance to look at that, queen to e3 check, taking advantage of the pin. Really nice move there. And if he goes over, you have checkmate with the bishop. And of course, if he goes back, then it's just checkmate. So that was nice. But still, pretty easy win, even though I didn't see the checkmate right away. We got it done. All right, let's go to the last game that we lost, and I'll talk you through that one. All right, so this game, we started out with the Sicilian, and I am super comfortable with the Sicilian when they play knight to c6 or when they play d6, when I can get the bishop out to b5. When they play the g6 lines, where they play g6 immediately, I think it's called the hyper accelerated dragon. It's trickier for me because my whole mindset has to shift. Okay, so normally when I play bishop b5, there's a whole bunch of theory that goes along with that. I'm very comfortable with that. When I don't play the bishop out, like I said, everything changes, and I have to kind of decide how am I going to approach this. And so I decided to play aggressive with h4. Now, this is primarily just to take my opponent out of their comfort zone, change it up early. A lot of times people will ignore this and let you play h5, which I do like. This person did decide to play h5, which I think is the best move for black. But you also create some weaknesses over here if the king ever castles. I don't think it really became a factor in this game, but a lot of times it can when you get that bishop on c4. So that's what I was trying to do. Just if you can imagine, if black's king was here for a second, the bishop would be lined up on it, which means this pawn is pinned. And so there's actually nothing defending g6, because normally the pawn would be here, but it's been pushed up. And so if you get your queen over there, you can actually just take that pawn when the king is there. So just some tactics to be aware of. So that's why I put the bishop on c4, kind of planning ahead a little bit for that. Also, it doesn't make sense to go to b5 if there's no knight to attack, because you get kicked away with a6 and b5, and you actually... I'll just show that real quick. You actually can lose your bishop like this if you're not careful. Noah's Ark trap, right? So it doesn't really make sense to go to b5. And so I said, well, let's go to c4. All right. So knight c6. And then did I spend a bunch of time here? No, it was later. I played d4. I'm just trying to strike back at the center. And then bishop to e3. I'm just developing and defending, developing. And then, yeah, right here, I spent way too much time here thinking. I wanted to play queen to f3. To go for checkmate and then castle. This is what I wanted to do. I want to play like queen f3, and then let's say he plays like e6 to block this off, and then I can maybe castle and, you know, start attacking this or something like that. That's what I was thinking. But then I realized after a bit, if I play queen f3, he's probably just going to play knight to f6, and then there's bishop g4. Like if I castle, there's bishop g4, and I'm just losing the exchange, which is not good. Engine is also just telling me there's knight to e5, which is even better for black, and I'm just losing my bishop. He's defending. So yeah, it wasn't a great move, which I kind of came to that conclusion, but I spent way too much time thinking about that before I played a, you know, decent move. It's not a bad move. It's just an okay move, just kind of defending my center. So I got into time trouble, and you saw that if you watched the game, right? I ended up losing because I was just in so much time trouble. So captured the knight, queen to d2, just setting up the battery to come over here. Engine, of course, has some other ideas, but it's not a bad move. a6, I castled, queen a5, king to b1. This is a common idea when somebody brings the queen to a5 and you've castled queenside. Why do we play king to b1? Number one, defends the pawn. So if these guys get traded or they move away, you don't want to worry about the queen coming down. Another reason is sometimes, let's say this bishop moved away somewhere, you have to watch out for a pin here on your king and queen, right? And so by moving my king to the side, I don't have to worry about that. It kind of just a safe square. One more reason, which you're going to see in just a second, right here, I played the move knight to d5, which is a great move. And this is an advanced tactic that a lot of people miss this one. But I also needed my king to be away from c1 for this to work. But when I play knight to d5, I'm actually threatening two things. Number one and number two. And if black, let's just say, takes my queen, before I take back, I throw in this check, and black's in trouble. They have to move. And then I take the queen, and look at this. I already got a free pawn. I have a fork, and this is a weak pawn now, and black's position just crumbles, okay? So that's kind of the idea. If my king was on c1, when black takes here, it's with check. And the whole idea doesn't work, okay? The other point is black doesn't have time to take my knight because they lose the queen. Nothing is defending the queen. And so the only move, really, for black is to do what they did and to go back. Now, apparently I missed something really obvious, and I don't know what it is. Yeah, Engine is saying that that was a terrible move. If I just took here, I actually want to see this because I didn't realize what was so good about this. And then played the move g4, I'm totally winning. And I guess it just has to do with the fact that, remember that bishop that I talked about? Now it's starting to play a role. This is a weak pawn. I'm busting open the king side here. This rook's going to come over. And black doesn't really have any threats. And I don't know. I totally didn't think about that. Yeah, I just didn't realize how strong g4 was going to be. I just missed it. I just missed the idea of attacking the king. In hindsight, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it does look pretty good. And so that's all I needed to do. Instead, I went down the wrong path here of trying to trade and allowing black to trade. That's another point, actually, that now that I'm looking at this. By playing here, this bishop is not very good for black, right? Look at this. It's just hitting a wall of pawns. It's blocking black's own rook. And it doesn't really have any good places to move to. It's just kind of sitting there. And what I did was allow black to trade that and get rid of that really strong knight. And now look at the rook. Boom, the rook is involved. This knight is actually pretty good. It's stopping some things, controlling the g4 square, putting pressure on d5, right? And so, yeah, I totally missed a good opportunity there. And then I tried to focus on this. Maybe it was the wrong idea. Maybe I should have focused on the king. Probably I should have went like this and played g4 and just tried to attack the king. Instead, I decided to go for this, which sometimes can be a weak pawn because of the way it's set up. But in this case, black had plenty of defensive opportunities. And I did get a little bit nervous here with the time and started to make some poor choices. So here, I'm just giving my bishop some breathing room if the pawn pushes. Now, of course, they can't push right away. I will just take it, but after like b5. So I was kind of just preparing for that. Same thing with c3, just giving myself some options with the bishop. And then I was just playing quickly at this point, trying to create a threat on the knight over here. Didn't want to trade because of the time situation, but didn't really know where else to go. And I felt like I would still have some pressure on the pawn, so I went ahead and did it. It turns out I didn't really have much, and black played pretty well from here on out, I think. Black played this very nicely. And the time pressure, I was just kind of moving my rooks around, and yeah, not too much to say here just because of the time situation. So the big takeaway was I went down the totally wrong path, right? Like I missed it. I missed it twice, really. Right here, the idea was go for the king, right? Don't waste any time, go for the king before black generates an attack on me. I had the opportunity, and I didn't do it fast enough. That was number one. And then the same thing right here. Instead of going over to the center, I needed to attack, right? I needed to attack the king. So bring this rook here, play g4, and just open it up. Even if black, like let's just say I would have done this, and black tries to do something over here, g4, takes. Even if this happens, I'm pretty happy. Because once I get h5 in, black's king is going to have to try really hard to survive, right? And there's two rooks, there's a queen. I can even bring my bishop back. Much better chances probably to win the game. So anyway, I hope you guys learned something from those games. If you have ideas for how to improve this, I'd like to do more videos like this where I kind of just talk through my thought process and share things that I think about. I think there's a lot of new players that would benefit, but I want to make these videos interesting. So if you have ideas, if you would do me a favor, just comment down below like, hey, I think if you did, XYZ, ABC, like it would make it more interesting. And if you see somebody's comment that you're like, oh, that's a good idea, I'd like to watch that, just go ahead and hit the thumbs up on it so it comes to the top so I can see those ideas, and I'll try to incorporate those things. Like maybe you say, hey, don't waste the time playing in the beginning, that wasn't helpful. Or maybe it was helpful and you say, hey, just draw some arrows while you're playing so that we can see what you're thinking about. Or just comment a little bit while you're playing, but not too much. Or like whatever it is, maybe it was perfect this way, I don't know. Like just let me know what you think. I would really appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. As always, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.